Hi, this is Kush from creativepadphotography.com. Welcome back to the Photoshop tutorial for beginners video series. In this video, we'll be looking at an important tool called adaptive wide angle filter, which is basically used to correct distortions in your image. So it's a short video, but a useful one. So let's get into it. So I'm going to open this urban cityscape kind of an image. Now what I opened was a raw file. So when you open a raw file, it automatically opens in Camera Raw filter. So I'm just going to quickly just correct this image a bit just so that you can see things clearly. Okay, so I'm just doing a quick edit, and I'm just going to click on open image. So the problem that we are facing with this image is that I have used a wide angle lens for this. So I'm using the Tokyo 11 to 16 mm f2.8. so I'm shooting this at 11 mm. That means I'm shooting it at the widest focal length on that lens. And of course, when you're shooting so wide, you start to get, with some lenses, you start to get distortion, especially on the edges. So if you look at the buildings here, here they're just starting to curve inside a bit, and they're just giving this angled look, which kind of gives the image a very distorted look and does not really look too natural and too good. So how we can correct this is you can just create a duplicate, and when you create this layer, you just have to go to filter menu and just select this option called adaptive wide angle. And this is a tool that is very easy to use. All you have to do is by default, this particular tool here is selected, and what you do is just simply, you basically have to draw a line, and you have to draw the line where on a part which should have been straight. Okay, so it can either be horizontal or vertical. We'll be seeing both of them. So for example, you can see that this building here is kind of edging inwards, right? So this is not a straight line anymore, but if you were to look at this building with your own eye, this would have been straight. So what we can do is, if I just press my mouse button, left click, and I draw this line, right? So you don't have to hold your mouse button. I've just left my mouse button, but to leave it, you'll have to press it again. So I'm just going to draw a straight line like this, because this should have been straight to the eye, right? So I'm just going to draw this line, and I'm going to leave this. And then what you have to do is, once you draw this line, right click on it and just select vertical. So you're telling this tool that this line should have actually been vertical. So when I do that, you will see that this building will straighten. As you can see now, this building has straightened out, right? So let's look for some other building now, which is, so you can see, if you probably look at this building here, it's kind of okay, but it's just slightly angled towards the right side. So I'm just gonna again draw this line. So when you draw this line, try to be near the edge of the things, because that's where you'll be able to draw easily. And again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to click on vertical, so you can see now this is completely straightened out. Then let's say probably this building here is just slightly angling towards the right, so I'm just going to draw. And if you just notice here, it most of the times is going to recognize the lens that you use. So this is the 11-16 f2.8, and when you're drawing these lines, you sometimes may see the line being drawn automatically as a slight curve. That's because this tool is intelligent enough to know which lens you've used, so it draws the line according to the distortion that the lens has caused, right? So if you do not understand that, that's perfectly fine. Just keep drawing the straight lines, and that's all you have to do. So I do this, so you can see our 3 straight lines, and we have straightened out these buildings. Now if you look at this part here, so it's slightly edging or angling upwards. Now we'll have to use the horizontal line here. So what I can do is I can just draw this. And now if you notice the point which I was making, if you notice this line is not exactly straight, it's kind of getting that curved look. That's because this tool knows which lens I'm using, and it's drawing the line according to the distortion that it causes, right? So I'm going to just click on this. I'm just going to click on horizontal. Okay, so got this line here, and let's probably do it once more. Let's do it here. Just going to click on horizontal. So you can use this for straightening your images also, but for normal straightening, you can just rely on your crop tool to to straighten out things. So this image now looks much better. And of course, when you are going to do this, what's going to happen is that ultimately you'll have to crop this image, so you will lose out some areas of the image, but that's the price you have to pay for correcting the distortion. Okay, so this kind of looks fine now. So if I just click on OK, so now what you're seeing is the cropped areas underneath that, you're seeing the original layer. So if I just hide this original, this is basically what your image is, and you have to crop in such a way that you get rid of these transparent areas. So I'm just gonna select till here, there, and so of course you will lose the width and the height of the image, but what you will get if I zoom in now is a much better straightened out image. So, and let's say if you don't want to do this, if you don't want to lose out any of this image, then of course if you have gone through the previous parts, what you can do is, for example, I can just probably, let's say first only crop till this much, because it's okay if you lose out the sky because there's nothing important going on there, but let's say if you don't want to lose this building. Okay, so what you can do is, let's say, pull it up till here, and for these areas, if they're not too big, what you can do is, to kind of get them back or stitch them back, you can use the content aware tool, just like I've shown you in the parts below. So let's see if that works here. So what we're going to do is first select these areas. Then if you remember, we went to select, modify, expand by 4 pixels. So you just give it a taste of what you want, and then you just use content aware, that is edit, fill, and content aware. So if this is new to you, I suggest that you do watch the earlier parts in this series, because that's where I've shown you how to do all this, and I explained you how these tools work. So you can see without cropping now, I've been able to fill in that gap digitally. Let's put it that way. So it just helps me preserve the width of the picture at least a bit. So this part can be a bit tricky because there's a lot of stuff going on here as opposed to just water here. So I can still give it a shot. So just expand, edit, fill, and content aware. Let's see if this works. So you can see it kind of did a pretty decent job, right? You can see you cannot really make out that this is being stitched, and what has happened as a result of this is that I didn't have to crop the width too much from my image, and I've been able to get a straightened image without any distortions, right? So you get the best of the both of the worlds. So you have to know certain tools when you use adaptive filter to kind of do this, but if the gap is too big, then you will have to crop, because sometimes the content aware tool may not be able to do a very good job if the gap is too big, the transparent area is too big, right? So I hope that you like this video, and I will see you in part 14 next time. Don't forget to give this a thumbs up and to subscribe, and bye for now.